Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we're going to talk about something that's been holding the nonprofit world back for decades. We're going to tear down this flawed idea and build up a much smarter way to figure out what really makes a charity effective. So let's kick things off with this quote from Dan Pallotta. It's pretty powerful, right? We have a belief system that insists that nonprofits be desperately afraid of investing in their own growth. This just nails it. It gets to the very heart of a system that basically punishes organizations for trying to get stronger. And that belief system, that's what we're going to unpack today.
All right, so for years, for decades, you and I have been told to judge charities by this one simple number, their overhead. You've heard it, right? And look, it probably started with good intentions, but man, it ended up causing some serious problems.
And that brings us to what's called the overhead myth. It's this idea that the best nonprofits are the ones that spend the least on, the basics, rent, salaries, decent computers. The thinking is, oh, they're so efficient. And yeah, it's a super easy number to grab onto, which is why it became so popular. But the problem is, it totally misses the point of what it actually takes to make a real lasting difference. So how did we get here? Well, it really kicked us in the late 90s. You had these charity watchdog groups pop up, and they were trying to do a good thing, bring some transparency to the sector. But they latched onto this overhead ratio, and it just accidentally created this race to the bottom. Nonprofits felt all this pressure to slash spending on essentials just to get a good rating. And get this, by 2013, the very people who created the system came out and said, you know what, we got this wrong. And all that pressure, it leads to what's known as the starvation cycle. Think about it. Nonprofits get scared to invest in great people, or up-to-date technology, or even in fundraising, all because they're worried it'll make their overhead look high. But what happens then? Without those key investments, they can't grow. They can't scale their impact. So in the end, the very mission they exist to serve is the one that gets hurt. Okay, so if the whole overhead thing is the wrong way to measure a nonprofit, what's the right way? Well, the answer is all about shifting our thinking. We need to move away from just looking at day-to-day management and start thinking about real, strategic, long-term financial leadership. And believe me, there's a huge difference between those two things. Financial management, that's the nuts and bolts. It's paying the bills, running the reports. But financial leadership, that's the big picture. That's strategy. It's guiding the whole organization to a future where it isn't just scraping by, but actually thriving. And to really get that strategy, we've got to look at one really important part of the books. Okay, so let's talk about something called net assets. It's basically the nonprofit version of a company's net worth. But here's the thing. The total number isn't what's really important. It's how that number is split up. This is the key right here. Not all of this money is the same. And this difference, it's absolutely everything. On one hand, you have assets with donor restrictions. That money is locked in. It has to be used for a very specific thing the donor wanted. Great for running a program today, but then you have assets without restrictions. Now that's the good stuff. That's the flexible cash. That's the money that lets them try new things, invest in the team, and actually build for the future. And that's exactly why this flexible, unrestricted money is the real sign of a nonprofit's health and strength. It's like the missing piece of the puzzle. It's what gives them the power to grow, to get through tough times, and to actually plan for making an even bigger impact down the road. So, if you're a leader, how do you keep track of all this? How do you know if you're financially healthy? Well, the answer is right there in the financial statements. And listen, these are not just for the accountants. Think of them like the dashboard in your car. Each part gives you a crucial piece of information about where you're going and how you're doing. First up on that dashboard is the statement of financial position. You probably know it as the balance sheet. This one's pretty simple. It answers the question, what do we own and what do we owe? It's just a snapshot, a picture of a single moment in time, telling a leader, hey, are we on solid ground right now? Okay, next up is the statement of activities. If the balance sheet was a snapshot, this is more like a movie of the whole year. It answers, did we make more than we spent? If you see a surplus here, especially one that's consistent, that's a really good sign. It means they have a healthy model and can start building up those important reserves. Then we have the statement of cash flows. Now, this one is the ultimate reality check. I like to think of it as the fuel gauge in the car. See, an organization might look profitable on paper, it might show a surplus, but could still literally run out of cash. A smart leader is always watching this to make sure there's enough actual money in the bank to pay people and keep the lights on.
And finally, there's the statement of functional expenses. This one is kind of the secret weapon for fighting back against that old overhead myth. What it does is it breaks down every single cost, rent, salaries, you name it, and shows how it supports the actual mission. It lets a leader say, look, here's what it really costs to do the amazing work we do. It changes the whole conversation. Okay, so we know where to look, but what are we looking for? What's the goal? Well, it's not just about keeping costs low. The real goal is to build up reserves, to create that long-term stability. And there's one key number that tells you if they're doing that. And that number is 3 to 6. A healthy nonprofit should aim to have 3 to 6 months worth of operating expenses tucked away in reserves. This is their rainy day fund. It's built from that awesome, flexible, unrestricted money. And it's what lets them get through a crisis without having to shut down vital programs. So let's just put these two ideas side by side. The old way, the overhead ratio, it only asks, how little are you spending? It's a question that comes from a place of scarcity. But the new metric, months of operating reserves, it asks a much better question. Can you survive a crisis? It's about resilience. It's about having a real safety net and being able to actually plan for the future. Which brings us right to the takeaway. This is the most important part. It is time for everyone, donors, board members, leaders, to just throw out that old, broken scorecard and pick up a new one that actually focuses on what matters. And you know what? It all starts with a really simple shift. We just have to stop asking that one lazy, misleading question about overhead. Instead, we need to start asking much smarter questions that really get to the truth about an organization's health and its ability to do its job for the long haul.
So what are those questions? Well, things like, are you guys consistently bringing in more flexible money than you spend? How many months of reserves do you have in the bank? Are you investing in your people and your systems? Can you tell me what it really costs to deliver your programs? See, asking these kinds of questions completely changes the dynamic. We stop being judges and we start being partners in their success. So let's just end on this. Instead of asking, what's your overhead, what if we started asking, what's the true cost of your impact? Just imagine if we finally broke that starvation cycle. If by asking better questions, we actually freed the causes we care about to invest in themselves, to grow, and to build a future where they can make an even bigger difference. That's a world I think we'd all want to be a part of.